Lucius Annaeus Seneca, a Roman philosopher, statesman, orator, and tragedian. Seneca led Rome as a leading intellectual figure, heavily impacting the culture of Roman philosophy in the mid-1st century. Seneca made a lasting contribution to Stoicism, occupying a prominent position in literature and shaping the understanding of Stoic thought that later generations were to have. Many readers approach Stoic philosophy through the works of Seneca. His writings are inspirationally diverse, shaping several philosophical genres, making him the maverick of his time. Seneca grew up as the second son of a wealthy Seneca the Elder, a Spanish-born knight who had gained fame as a writer and teacher of rhetoric in Rome. His mother, Helvia, was part of a reputable family. At approximately 5 years old, Seneca lived in Rome, where he was taught literature, grammar, and rhetoric. At a young age, he received philosophical training from Attalus, the Stoic, at the School of Sexti in Rome. The school blended the teachings of Stoicism with an ascetic neo-Pythagoreanism. In the year 50, Seneca became a praetor, married a wealthy woman, and built up a powerful group of friends, becoming the tutor of the future emperor Nero. Seneca and his friends held great army commands on the German and Parthian frontiers. Through this power, Seneca and the others were able to push fiscal and judicial reforms, fostering a more humane attitude towards slaves. During Seneca's remaining years, he lived a quiet lifestyle on his country estate, concentrating on his studies. It was during his last years that Seneca wrote some of his best philosophical works. His life, filled with action, tragedy, and friendship, influenced his most famous philosophical works and dramas. He wrote a total of 124 essays treating a range of moral problems, not easily reduced to a single solution. His plays had great influence upon notorious writers in England such as William Shakespeare's Titus Andronicus, John Webster's The Duchess of Malfi, and Cyril Tournier's Revenger of the Tragedy, all of which include ghosts, witches, cruel tyrants, and most importantly, present the dominant theme of vengeance. From this alone, it's presently clear the stature and influence Seneca had, not only on his own time, but for centuries to come. In philosophy, Seneca's contribution is praised to be highly accessible. Seneca writes within the track of an existing system. He emphasizes his independence as a thinker, working to integrate ideas from other philosophies, abandoning the idea to keep Stoicism pure from non-Stoic ideas. Seneca is even described to be the world's most interesting Stoic by infamous Renaissance writer Michael de Monsignani. Seneca wrote numerous books on Stoicism, building on earlier Stoic writers such as Zeno, Cleanthes, and Chrysippus. His works explore ethical theory and practical advice, the most famous of his works being Letters from a Stoic and On the Shortness of Life. Through Seneca's eyes, philosophy was the balm for the wounds of life. His key teachings were in relation to destructive passions, explaining that they must be moderated or destroyed. He also considered it to be significant to confront one's own mortality and be able to face death. We should evaluate life not by the years lived, but rather by what has been accomplished and how it was lived. In addition to this, Seneca also stresses the importance of favours, clemency, and of course friendship, and the need to benefit others. To finalise the importance of Seneca's influence on Stoicism and the philosophical landscape, here's 3 lessons to take away from his teachings. The first of these 3 would be to find an anchor. In Seneca's letters to Lucilius, he urges him to search for a role model. This person could provide us with the principles that aid us when we are faced with adversity. As Seneca said himself, choose someone whose way of life, as well as words, and whose very face is mirroring the character that lies behind it, have won your approval. Be always pointing him out to yourself, either as your guardian or as your role model. Secondly, would to never be a slave of your wealth. In Seneca's essay on the happiness of life, he wrote that, "For the wise man does not consider himself unworthy of any gifts from fortune's hands. He does not love the wealth, but he would rather have it. He does not admit into his heart, but into his home. And what wealth is his, he does not reject, but keeps, wishing it to supply greater scope for him to practice his virtue." Seneca was ready to use his wealth, but never to be dependent on it. Today, take the time to think whether you are trapped by your wealth. Are you so afraid that one day your wealth will disappear? This means that you have become its slave. Lesson 3 is the significance behind fighting our ego. Seneca understood that our ego is often our barrier to our progress and learning. By buying into our ego, we stop ourselves from growing beyond the point in which we left our progress. Seneca wrote in his letters to Lucilius that the chief obstacle is that we are quick to be satisfied with ourselves. If we find someone to call us good men, cautious and principled, we acknowledge him. We are not content with a moderate eulogy, but accept as our due whatever flattery has shamelessly heaped upon us. We agree with those who call us best and wisest, although we know they often utter many falsehoods. We indulge ourselves so greatly that when we want to be praised for a virtue, which is the opposite of our behaviour, a man hears himself called most merciful while he is inflicting torture. So it follows that we don't want to change because we believe we are already excellent. How would you apply these teachings from centuries ago into our contemporary landscape? Say, for instance, you are faced with a dilemma. Let that be a piece of work you can't finish or a difficult choice you have to make. By facing your problem with the mindset that overcoming this issue, you can learn and move forward. You are given the opportunity of growth. By thinking or believing we are perfect and allowing our egos to consume the decisions we make flourish, we tend to ignore the problems that have the potential to take us towards the next chapter of our lives. As long as you live, keep learning how to live. Seneca. Thank you for listening to the second lesson of the journey through Stoicism. By embarking on these lessons, just like the great Stoics of history, you too are a Stoic. All books mentioned in this lesson will be in the description below. If you would like to learn more on Stoicism, please feel free to follow me at Everyday Stoic, where I write daily quotes and Stoic affirmations. I hope you have a wonderful day, and remember, you too are a Stoic.